I moved into my sister's apartment with 2 suitcases and a red metal toolbox, promising it would only be for a few weeks. The couch sagged, the building smelled like old carpet and lemon cleaner, and I felt lucky anyway. My name is Sarah Erickson. I'm 31, newly divorced as of 2 weeks ago, and very good at keeping my head down when I need to. My sister, Vivian, is 35 and lives alone in a 1-bedroom on the 2nd floor of a brick 4-plex in Columbus, Ohio. She likes things tidy and labeled. I like avoiding fights. It seemed like a workable mix. We hauled my stuff up the narrow stairs on a Sunday in late March. I put the suitcases in the corner by the window and slid the toolbox under the coffee table. Vivian fluffed the couch pillows, stepped back, and smiled at me like a realtor finishing a showing. "I love having you here," she said, then tapped the sink with one fingernail. "Just, remember to rinse after you brush your teeth." "It stains." "Got it," I said. I was already rinsing the sink. I brought groceries the next day: eggs, spinach, a rotisserie chicken, oat milk, because that's what she drinks. I paid at the self-checkout and stuffed the receipt in my pocket out of habit. At home I cooked, washed the pan, and wiped the counters. Vivian came in from work, heels in one hand, and kissed my hair. "You're an angel." "The family chat is going to explode when they see you're here." She snapped a picture of us holding salad tongs and posted it before I could swallow. The chat lit up. Our cousin Kayla with hearts, Mom with "My girls," and a line of clapping emojis. I typed "staying a few weeks" and put my phone face down. 2 weeks felt reasonable. 4, if I stretched it. I'd float, keep everything light, and leave no trace. Day 3, the curtain rod in her bedroom tilted as she pulled the shade. "It's been doing that," she said, like gravity was disrespectful. I got my drill. She watched me anchor the brackets and handed me screws like a nurse in an OR. "I swear, you got Dad's hands," she said. It sounded like love, and that felt like oxygen. We fell into a rhythm. I woke early, made coffee, and walked to my temp job 10 blocks away. After work, I picked up things we were low on: paper towels, dish soap, the good pasta, and cleaned because I needed my hands moving. Vivian texted me from her office about throw pillow ideas and whether I'd be home by 6. I made sure the bathroom didn't look like a crime scene after I showered. I sent her a transfer for half the utilities without being asked, just to keep it uncomplicated. That first week, Vivian kept introducing me to things, like I'd never lived in an apartment. "Trash goes out on Tuesdays. Recycling is every other week, and they are picky. Please put shoes on the rack, not next to it. When you use the dryer, clean the lint trap. The last tenant didn't and almost burned down the building." Her tone was chipper, edges hard. I nodded. I wiped the lint trap. I matched my breathing to the soft click of her label maker. Mom called the following Saturday. "How's it going, honey?" she asked, her voice bright with effort. She's 61 and allergic to silence. "Good," I said. "It's temporary." Vivian walked past, mouthed, "Who?" and I pointed to the phone. She leaned down, stage whispered, "Mom, Sarah's being amazing," and then, still into the phone, "She's just got to be mindful of the water heater. It's small." "Of course," Mom said. "Viv, let her breathe." Vivian laughed. "I'm teasing. Mostly." That night, after dinner, I did the dishes and lined the cutting boards back in the slot where she liked them. I needed to feel like I wasn't taking advantage. I was there by her grace. I kept repeating it like a mantra. Be good. Be helpful. Be small. On Monday morning, she left for work in a pressed dress and a trench coat. I worked a late shift, so I stayed back and vacuumed the rug, propped a chair to fix a wobbly leg, and rehung 2 frames that were crooked by a hair. The apartment hummed with the quiet of an empty weekday. I ate toast over the sink and checked the job board on my phone. I scrolled apartments I couldn't afford yet and told myself it was fine. Weeks, not months. I was rinsing my mug when I saw it, the piece of paper taped to the fridge with floral washi tape. It was typed, color-coded, and centered like a flyer. At first glance, I assumed it was a chore chart or a grocery list. Vivian loves a list. I stepped closer. At the top, bold. April rent breakdown. Underneath, neat lines with dollar amounts. My eyes stuck on the first one. Oh, couch! $300! I blinked, mouth open, the mug still in my hand. The list went on. Utilities contribution. Wi-Fi, $60. There were more lines I couldn't process all at once. At the bottom, her Venmo handle, and a due date. Couch, $300? I laughed out loud in the empty kitchen. The list was typed and highlighted like a spreadsheet come to life. April rent breakdown, at the top. Then, couch, $300. Wi-Fi, $60. Utilities contribution, TBD, adjusted monthly. Shower fee, $15 per shower. Fridge door open, halt, linger fee, $2 per occurrence. At the bottom, her Venmo handle and due 4/5. I waited for the punchline that didn't come. When Vivian got home, I held the paper up. Tell me this is a joke. She set her tote on a chair, glanced at the page, and smiled like a manager in a training video. It's expectations. You said a few weeks. I'm happy to help, but I'm not a hotel, Sarah. I already sent you half for utilities last week, I said, and I've been buying groceries. That was March, she said, chirpy with edges. This is April, and groceries are variable. This keeps it fair. Fair? I wasn't yelling. I sounded like someone trying to find the bottom step in the dark. $15 to take a shower? She opened the fridge, moved the oat milk, and closed it. Long showers use a lot of hot water, and you, no offense, stand there with the fridge open like you're meditating. The compressor runs. It adds up. I stared at her. $2 to look at a fridge? Not to look. To linger, she said, like the word had a legal definition. If you're quick, it's nothing. She took the paper, smoothed it, and re-taped it with a fresh line of washi tape. We're adults. Clear is kind. A bubble popped up on my phone a minute later. Vivian had posted a photo of the sheet to the family chat with the caption, House Rules, Teaching Sarah Adulting, followed by a winking emoji. Kayla sent 5 laughing faces. Mom wrote, Ha ha ha, be nice. Someone added a gif of a person throwing cash in the air. I put my phone face down and grabbed my keys. I walked to the corner store and bought coffee, bread, bananas, and a pack of paper towels. Back home, I Venmo'd her $60 with the note Wi-Fi, and then another $40 with April groceries. It wasn't everything on the list. It was enough to show I wasn't freeloading. The little green check marks stacked up in the app like proof. Vivian called from the bathroom, voice bright over the hair dryer. Thanks for the Wi-Fi and the groceries. You're the best. Can we talk about the rest? I asked, standing in the doorway so the steam didn't hit me. She clicked off the dryer and peeked around the door, mascara wand in hand. About what? The couch, the shower thing, the fridge? She blinked. The couch is your rent. You're using the common areas. If you were in a sublet, you'd pay a lot more. This is actually generous. It said No subletting on the lease on the counter, I said, hearing my voice go careful. I glanced while I was making toast. She laughed. You think Francis is counting guests? He doesn't care as long as the building's quiet and the check's clear. This isn't subletting. It's sharing costs. Don't be dramatic. I nodded. I didn't trust my mouth. That night, I wiped down the counters, folded the throw blanket, and stacked dishes in the rack like a sculpture. I set out the eggs and spinach for the morning, and, when I opened the fridge, counted in my head, 1, 2, and shut it before I hit 3. In the morning, there was a small whiteboard by the bathroom light switch. New. Clean. 2 words at the top in her neat handwriting. Showers, April. Under it, a single tick mark. She'd drawn it at some point after I went to bed. I touched the cap of the dry erase marker and put it back. The shower felt shorter that day. I washed fast and watched the fog creep up the mirror like a timer. At work, Maeve asked how the couch life was going. I said, fine, and smiled too hard. On my break, I scrolled apartments again. Everything decent was out of reach, and the ones I could afford looked like serial killer sets. I closed the tabs and texted Vivian. Do you want me to grab anything on my way home? She sent a list. Lemons, parsley, multi-purpose cleaner, and different sponges. The blue ones scratch, she wrote. At home, the whiteboard had 2 tick marks. Mom texted the group chat a photo of a plant she'd bought. Vivian replied with a picture of our sink, sparkling, a bottle of cleaner posed next to it, and wrote, Sarah is learning so much about keeping house. Proud. More laughing emojis from cousins. Kayla. Charge her a glitter tax if she ever crafts there. It was meant to be funny, I think. It lodged under my ribs anyway. I sent Vivian another $20 without a note. I took out the trash and set the bin back at a perfect angle. I kept my showers under 5 minutes and my fridge opens under 10 seconds. I timed them in my head. 2 days later, she added a column to the whiteboard with little dollar signs. Just to help you keep track, she said, tapping her pen against the plastic. Communication prevents conflict. Right, I said. I dried off with the towel I'd bought myself and listened to the squeak of the marker as she made a fresh tick mark I hadn't had time to see. The first ping hit my phone while I was still toweling my hair. Request from Vivian. Shower 4-8, $15. I stared at it, water beading down my neck. In the hall, the whiteboard had a new tick mark and a little sits 15s beside it. By lunch, there was another request. Fridge Linger X2, $4. I kept my jaw unclenched and my replies polite. That night, I stirred pasta sauce and said, Can we set a flat amount so I can budget? I'm already doing groceries and some fixes. The per-use stuff is confusing. Vivian flicked the burner down and smiled without showing teeth. A flat rate would be you getting a deal. This is precise. If you're not lingering, you won't see the charge. Easy. I wiped my hands, pulled out my phone, and typed a longer version so I wouldn't say it wrong. Could you itemize what you expect from me monthly and what these fees cover? I want to understand, and I'm already contributing groceries, cleaning, repairs, and toiletries. Maybe we could look at the actual water bill instead of per-shower charges? She didn't answer right away. My phone buzzed with the family chat instead. Vivian had posted a screenshot of my text and wrote, Imagine asking for an itemized shower receipt. With a crying, laughing emoji. Kayla jumped in. LMAO, stop lingering in the fridge, Sarah. Another cousin added a meme about hotel minibars. Mom sent, "Girls, be kind," and a heart. I put the wooden spoon down and felt my face stay hot for a long time. I sent Vivian $15 for that morning's shower with a neutral note, 4-8, and another $150 labeled couch partial, because the word rent in my brain made it feel less personal. The little green check marks stacked up. I took pictures of each screen and saved them in a folder in my notes app I named Apartment. It made me feel less like I was drowning. The next week had a rhythm, if you could call it that. Wake early. Coffee. Walk to work. Time my lunch in the break room so I didn't have to explain this to Maeve. On the way home, grab lemons, parsley, and the soft sponges. Put the bag on the counter. Watch Vivian angle her phone to the best possible light and write "domestic angels" in the family chat. Keep my replies to heart emojis. In the bathroom, the whiteboard filled up. Tick marks, tiny dollar signs. 2 lines said "guest shower" with zeros, both times after Vivian's friend came by to get ready for a date. When I asked, "Do guests get charged for showers?" she laughed. "Don't be absurd. She was here for an hour." The requests continued to hit my phone in the same clipped format. Shower 412, $15. Fridge Linger, $2. Utilities AG, $22. I paid them, mostly the day they arrived. Sometimes I waited until morning so I could sleep without seeing the balance bump my way. On a Thursday, I stood on a chair and took the humming apart out of the bathroom fan, cleared the lint, and put it back. The next day, the noise was gone. I left the screwdriver on the counter like a calling card. Vivian touched the switch, listened to the quiet, and said, "Thank you." Soft enough that I almost cried. Then she picked up the marker and, without looking at me, drew another tick mark for the shower I'd taken before work. That weekend, Mom FaceTimed us, propping her phone up by a mixing bowl. "I baked too many cupcakes," she said. "I could swing by on Tuesday. Sarah, I'll bring candles. We can do a quick thing. Nothing big." "Tuesday's fine," I said. My birthday had been an afterthought in my head this year, which felt like a relief. "Cute," Vivian said, already pulling out her planner. "We'll do it fast. I have Pilates at 7. We hung up. A minute later, another ping. "Request from Vivian. Utilities RDG. $30. I paid it and added the screenshot to my folder. At the end of 4 weeks, late March to late April, I sat at the tiny coffee table and counted. Wi-Fi, $60. Couch partial, $150. Shower fees, $12 at $15 a pop. Fridge lingers, 5 or 6, call it $10. Utilities adjustments in 3 random amounts, $60 total. Plus the little ones I'd been throwing her way the days I couldn't look at the whiteboard. In a month, I'd sent her $480. I put that number next to the others and slid my phone under a magazine. On Monday night, Vivian came home with a paper bag and a new roll of floral washi tape. She pulled the whiteboard down, wiped it clean, and wrote "Week 4 totals" in cursive. Then she taped a fresh sheet below the original April rent breakdown and added a line with a flourish. Guest tax, non-tenant visitors, $25. Birthday cleanup, $10. She turned, smiling like this solved a problem. "Since Mom's popping by tomorrow." "Common area wear, and cupcakes are messy." The marker squeaked as she added the new line. Guest tax, non-tenant visitors, $25. Birthday cleanup, $10. The whiteboard looked like a menu. "For Mom?" I asked. My voice sounded small to my own ears, like I was standing 2 rooms away. Vivian capped the marker and set it in the little cup she'd labeled markers. She'll be here. We'll be in the common area. There will be crumbs. It's not a big deal. I'll clean most of it, honestly. It's my birthday, I said, because it was Tuesday and I had almost gotten away with pretending it wasn't. This is practically symbolic, she said, tapping the board with a nail. Common area wear. 10 for cleanup is nothing. Consider it motivation to keep it short and sweet. I have Pilates at 7. I stared at the numbers until they were just shapes. Something went quiet in me, like a switch flipped. I reached for the sponge and wiped an invisible spot on the counter because my hands needed a job. On Tuesday after work, I came back early to start coffee and set out plates. Mom had texted a picture of a Tupperware full of cupcakes lined up like soldiers. Popping by 5:30! With 3 candle emojis. Vivian was in her room, blow dryer roaring, a dress laid out on the bed for after. There was a paper under a magnet by the fridge, half tucked under a takeout menu. Lease. 12-month renewal. It had been sitting there for a week, but I hadn't really looked at it. Vivian had made a point of saying, I need to skim this before I sign. Francis added some nonsense about storage. I slid it out and set it flat on the counter. The edges were soft. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof. Permission. Something official that told me I wasn't crazy. The first page was names and dates. Owner, agent, Francis Bell. The building address, the unit number. I turned the page. No smoking, no pets without fee, trash rules, a paragraph about not affixing shelves without approval. I skimmed until I hit a bold heading, occupancy and use. The blow dryer clicked off, and the sudden quiet made the words sharper. Tenant shall not sublet the premises or any part thereof, nor permit unauthorized occupants to reside on the premises. Next line. Tenant shall not collect rent, fees or utilities contributions from non-tenants. I read it twice, hands flat on the laminate. The letters didn't move. I felt as if the floor had found me again. Vivian stepped out in a robe, mascara wand in hand. What are you doing? She asked, friendly but wary, like I'd been caught reading her diary. Nothing, I said. Just making coffee. My finger stayed on the line. I sounded normal. I was not normal. She leaned over, dabbed at her eyelashes in the reflection of the dark microwave door. Francis loves to add jargon, she said. It's all CYA. What does this mean? I asked, not moving my hand. I kept my tone easy. About subletting and collecting fees. She glanced, quick. It means I can't rent the place to strangers on Airbnb. Calm down. It says from non-tenants, I said. My eyes were on the paper. I didn't trust my face. I'm not on the lease. You're my sister, she said, like that solved everything. This isn't subletting. This is me being generous and you helping. Don't get hung up on technicalities. Francis doesn't care. The dryer blasted on again. She disappeared into the bathroom. I stood there and listened to the air rush, and then the silence after it clicked off, and then the whine of her electric toothbrush. My coffee went cold. I took my phone out and snapped a picture of the clause. I took another, and another, in case one was blurry. I grabbed the floral-taped April rent breakdown from the fridge, laid it next to the lease, and took pictures of that too. Then I stepped down the hall and photographed the whiteboard with the ticks and dollar signs. The marker ink caught the light like it was still wet. My folder on my phone, Apartment, already had screenshots of the green checkmarks from Venmo, each with a date and a note, Wi-Fi, 4, hate shower, couch partial, utilities AGG. I scrolled, counted under my breath, and felt my shoulders drop a half-inch as the line in the lease held steady under everything else. My birthday text from Mom buzzed through at 5:21. "Parking now? Do you want candles lit, or should I bring a lighter?" I sent back, "I've got matches." My fingers were steady. Vivian came out in her dress, cheeks flushed. "Okay," she said, checking the mirror again. "No big mess. Quick photos. Seriously, Mom can't stay long. I'll put a towel under the plates." "I'll get it," I said. I had already folded a dish towel along the counter edge. I moved in the small kitchen like I was in a stage play, hitting marks I already knew. Mom knocked and then let herself in. "Happy birthday, honey." Her voice was too bright, but her eyes were soft. She kissed my forehead and set down the cupcakes. "Hi, Viv," she said over my shoulder. "Hi, Mom," Vivian sang, plucking a sprinkle off a cupcake and sticking it back. "No crumbs, please. Pilates at 7. Mom glanced at me. I smiled and lit a candle. We sang. I made a wish so small it felt like air. We ate with napkins tucked under our chins. Mom wiped the counter twice before I could. We took a photo, all three of us, our faces close. It looked almost normal, which was its own kind of mercy. Mom left at 6:05 with a hug that lasted a beat too long. The door clicked. Vivian checked the time and started packing her gym bag. "That was cute," she said. "See? Easy." "Easy," I said. When she went to the bathroom to fix her ponytail, I brought my phone back to the lease on the counter, zoomed in on the clause, and then opened my email. The address was at the top of page 1, Francis.Bell at a generic property domain. I typed a subject line, Occupancy Question Re Unit 2B. Then I put my name in the body and started a new paragraph. Subject, Occupancy Question RE Unit 2B. I typed, "Hello, Mr. Bell. My name is Sarah Erickson. I've been staying at Unit 2B with my sister, Vivienne, since late March. I've been contributing money each week for shared costs as requested. If I'm paying to live here, I'd like to understand how to be added to the lease or otherwise be authorized. I've attached examples of what I've been asked to pay and my transfers. Thank you for any guidance." I attached photos, the lease clause with my finger next to it, the floral taped April rent breakdown, the whiteboard with ticks and dollar signs, and a roll of screenshots from Venmo with green check marks, Wi-Fi, couch partial, shower fees, utilities adjustments. I stared at the send button until my thumb stopped shaking. Then I pressed it. Vivian came down the hall, clipping on earrings. "Ready?" she asked, eyes on her reflection in the microwave door. "Yep," I said, moving a cupcake container into the fridge and counting 1, 2 in my head before closing it. After she left for Pilates, the apartment went very quiet. I washed the 2 plates, dried them, set them back in their slot. My phone buzzed at 8:43 p.m. "Sarah, thanks for the heads up. Collecting rent or fees from non-tenants is not permitted under the lease. I'll need to inspect the unit and speak with the tenant. Are you available Thursday at 10 a.m.? Francis Bell." I nodded like he could see me. I typed, "Yes, I'll be at work, but Vivian will be home around then. Thank you." Then I put the phone down and let it sit while my heart caught up. At 9:02, another buzz. "Inspection set for Thursday, 10 a.m. I'll give 24-hour notice to the tenant. If you have any further documentation, you can forward it here. FB." "Thank you," I wrote, and attached the remaining screenshots I hadn't sent. The small ones I'd labeled Utilities Orgy and Fridge Linger. I didn't add commentary. The numbers said what I couldn't. I texted Maeve. Random question. Studio above the laundromat you mentioned. Still available? She replied in seconds. I think so. Sign's still in the window. Owner is old school. Call the number on the sign early tomorrow. He'll pick up. You okay? Getting there, I wrote. If I skip non-essentials for a month, I can cover deposit. Proud of you, she sent. Then, a phone number, and tell him I sent you. I slept in small slices. In the morning, I packed 2 boxes under the bed with my off-season clothes and the books I'd already read, did coffee, and walked to work. At 9:10 on my break, I called the number in the window. Laundromat? A man said, like that answered all possible questions. Hi, I said. I'm calling about the studio upstairs. You got a job? He asked. Yes, I said. Downtown. I can bring pay stubs and ID. All right, he said. Swing by at lunch. I'll show you. Cash for the deposit if you want the key today. My lunch is at noon, I said. I'll be there. At 12 on the dot, I stood on the sidewalk reading the handwritten rent sign taped inside the glass. The owner, grey hair, keys jangling from his belt, led me up a narrow back stairwell that smelled like soap and warm metal. He unlocked a door that caught at the frame. She sticks, he said. Lift when you turn. The studio was one room, and a sliver, window over the brick alley, a tiny kitchen with a 2-burner stove and a half-size fridge. The air smelled like laundry and lemon cleaner. The radiator gave a small clank, like it was clearing its throat. It's month to month, he said. First month plus deposit. No pets, no candles. Don't run the toaster and the space heater at the same time or you'll pop the breaker. I nodded. I opened the cabinet under the sink and mentally measured the toolbox. It would fit. He watched me walk the perimeter. You want it? He asked. No pressure. The rent was posted in the window below. I'd done the math twice on my phone already. If I cut everything extra for a month, I could make it work. Yes, I said. My voice surprised me by not wavering. I can bring deposit today. He pulled a form from a folder, 1 page, carbon paper underneath. Name, phone, job, emergency contact. I wrote neatly. He checked my ID, glanced at the pay stub I'd snapped a picture of, and handed me a pen. Sign here? I signed. He countersigned. He tore off my copy and handed me a brass key with a blue plastic tag. Lift as you turn, he said again, smiling like he'd given me an insider trick. I held the key and let the teeth press crescents into my palm. Thank you, I said. I'll start moving things tomorrow. Back at my desk, I emailed Mr. Bell to confirm. Received notice. I will not be present Thursday at 10, but I understand the need to inspect. Thank you. He replied with the formal notice attached and a line. We'll review the lease terms at that time. After work, I walked home the long way to burn off the buzzing in my chest. Vivian had left a new list on the counter labelled This Week's Shared Items, with lemons, parsley, cleaner, sponges. I added them to my notes app out of habit, and then set my phone face down. In my folder, Apartment, I created a new album called Studio and took pictures. The key, the door, the little window over the alley. Then I slid the album shut and started gathering boxes from the grocery store downstairs. I'd packed for worse moves. This one, at least, had a plan. I packed at night. The grocery boxes I'd collected were soft around the corners, but they held. I folded my clothes into stacks, slid books along the bottom edges, wrapped the 2 mugs I cared about in t-shirts. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the occasional footstep in the hall. Vivian had gone to bed after posting a flat lay of her gym bag and a caption about "Routine is everything." I moved like someone trying not to wake a baby. The throw blanket on the couch got folded and centered. I shook out the cushions and tucked the tag back where it belonged. I wiped the coffee table, then the little ring where a glass had sweated months ago and never quite came off. I took my red toolbox from under the table, felt the weight of it in my hand, and paused. 3 trips down the narrow stairs to the car. The stairwell smelled like old paint and dust. On the first run, the toolbox rattled in the passenger seat like applause at every stoplight. On the second, the suitcases knocked my knees and left faint scuffs on the wall that I wiped with my sleeve. On the third, I stood in the doorway with the last box of kitchen things and looked at the couch like it could answer something for me. It didn't. I hung my copy of The Key on the hook by the door, the one Vivian had labeled extra in laminated tape. I hesitated, then slid the chain across, then slid it back, and left the deadbolt as it had been. No note, no drama, just tidy. At the studio, the door stuck until I lifted and turned like the owner had taught me. The room smelled like laundry and lemon cleaner, and the faint heat of the day from the radiator. I stacked boxes against the wall, set my suitcases under the window, and leaned the broom in the corner. It was past 11 by the time I locked up. On the way home for the last load, the city felt small and quiet, like it was holding its breath. In the morning, I woke up on the floor of the studio under my coat, my neck stiff and my mouth dry. I took a picture of the key on my palm and put it in the studio album. Then I washed my face in the tiny sink, changed into work clothes, and walked to the temp job like I always did, coffee from the corner place warming my hands. At 8:12, Mom texted, "Popping by Viv's around 9:45 with leftover cupcakes. Kayla might come with me. Will you be there?" A selfie followed of the Tupperware, frosting smudged against the lid. I stared at the screen for a second. "I can't make it," I typed. "Have fun." "Okay, honey," she wrote. "We'll say hi for you." By 9:30, I'd told my supervisor I might need to step away for a quick call mid-morning. He nodded without looking up. I wiped box dust off my phone screen with the edge of my sleeve and set an alarm for 9:55. It felt silly and necessary at the same time. At 9:56, I ducked into the stairwell by the vending machines and watched the minute hand crawl. The building's humming AC and the pop of a soda can somewhere made everything feel louder. At 10 on the dot, my phone buzzed with a calendar reminder I'd set the night before. Inspection. Seconds later, an email slid in from Francis Bell. "Arriving at Unit 2B now." The subject line had the address, the same as on the lease I'd photographed. At 10:01, the family chat lit up. Mom posted a photo from Vivian's dining table, 2 plates, each with a cupcake cut with a fork, crumbs corralled on napkins like someone had staged them. The caption, "Breakfast treat with my girls." Kayla chimed in, "Cake for breakfast is a lifestyle." I pictured the apartment exactly as I'd left it, the blanket smooth, the whiteboard cleaned and rewritten, the lease still under the magnet, only this time with Mom's purse on a chair and Kayla's elbows on the table. I didn't have to imagine the knock. It happened at 10:02 when my phone buzzed again with a short line from Mr. Bell. Knocking. I exhaled. The vending machine clunked. Somewhere a door opened and shut. I slid my phone back into my pocket and waited for nothing in particular, palms pressed flat against the cool cinder-block wall. I went back to my desk and clicked into a spreadsheet I didn't remember opening. My phone sat face up beside the keyboard, lighting with group chat hearts and a yum from an aunt. I didn't answer. At 10:07, a missed call flashed from Vivian, then another, then a text. "Are you home?" "Answer your phone!" I turned the screen over and traced the edge of the case with my thumb. Maeve leaned over the divider at 10:15. "You okay?" she mouthed. I nodded. She didn't push. By lunch, I'd moved 2 more bags over to the studio, my shoes in one and a jumble of bathroom things in the other. The door stuck. I lifted. It turned. It locked. The radiator clanked again, like punctuation. I took a breath, long enough that my shoulders moved. The apartment I'd left behind would do whatever it was going to do. My part, for once, was finished. At 10:09, my screen lit with a photo from Kayla, a man in a navy jacket standing by the bookshelf in Vivian's living room, papers in his hand. "The landlord is here," she wrote. A second later, "He's literally reading the lease out loud." Mom texted me separately. "He seems nice." Calm. Then, "We miss you." Another from Kayla. "He just said, shall not sublet or collect rent or fees from non-tenants." Viv looks mad. I sat very still, the office a soft hum around me. The edge of my mousepad was frayed. I picked at it. My phone buzzed again, this time a call. The banner on top flashed the last text from Vivian. "Are you kidding me?" I let it ring out. It started again immediately. I answered on the 3rd ring. "What did you do?" Vivian said. Her voice was low and furious. In the background, I caught a man's voice, steady and measured. "Ms. Erickson, I'm referring to Section 8, Occupancy and Use." "You emailed Francis?" she snapped. "You dragged our landlord into this? In front of Mom? Kayla's here. Do you even think?" "I asked how to be added to the lease if I'm paying to live there," I said. I kept my tone even. "I sent examples of what you asked me to pay." Mr. Bell again, closer this time, like he'd stepped forward. "I also have printouts here. This appears to be a rent breakdown, and several payment requests labeled shower and fridge linger. These are not permitted." Kayla texted me while I was still on the call, a photo of the floral taped sheet in Mr. Bell's hand. Underneath, she'd typed, "He brought receipts. Literally." Vivian's breath hissed through her teeth. "You made me look insane," she said. "You've been freeloading for a month, and now this?" "I've been sending you money all month," I said. "Check your texts in a second." Behind her, Mom's voice. "Viv, let him finish." Mr. Bell cleared his throat, professional. "Per the lease and the fee schedule attached, there's a $350 violation fee for unauthorized occupancy and collection of fees. This is a formal warning as well. Continued violations can result in further action." Silence on the line except for a tiny clink. Someone set a fork down. I opened our message thread and selected the album I'd been building. Wi-Fi $60, couch partial $150, 12 shower fees, fridge lingers, utilities adjustments, 23 screenshots in all. I hit share. The blue bar crawled across the top of my screen. "They're on the way," I said. "I moved out yesterday." "What?" she said, like I'd spoken in a language she didn't know. "I moved to a studio," I said. Above the laundromat on 5th, I left the couch tidy and my key on the hook. On the other end, a scrape of a chair. Vivian dropped her voice to a whisper. "You are unbelievable," she said. The whisper was worse than the yelling. Mr. Bell's voice, patient, cut in. "Ms. Erickson, as we discussed, you cannot charge non-tenants for use of common areas or utilities. If Ms. Erickson," he meant me, "is no longer residing here, that's good to know. Please confirm that via email. The fee will be added to your next statement." My phone chimed, a flood of red receipts as the images landed on Vivian's end. I pictured the little squares stacking, green check marks, dates, notes. It felt like putting bricks back into a wall. In the group chat, Kayla sent a single wide-eye emoji. Mom wrote, "Girls, deep breaths," and then, "Viv, listen to him." Vivian came back up to full volume. "You blindsided me," she said. "You could have talked to me." "I tried," I said. "I asked for clarity. You posted it in the chat and charged me another 15 for a shower." There was a long pause. I could hear Mr. Bell turning a page. "For your records," he said to someone in the room, "I'll email a copy of what I've just read aloud, and the invoice for the fee." Vivian inhaled sharply. "Are you happy?" she asked. "You got me fined." "I don't want you fined," I said. "I want this to stop." "I wish you well." I ended the call before she could answer. My hand shook, but only a little. I put the phone face down on the desk and stared at the mouse pad until the threads came back into focus. It buzzed again almost immediately. "Call, call, call." I didn't pick up. An email slid in from Mr. Bell. "Inspection completed. Lease terms reviewed with tenant. Violation fee of $350 assessed per lease. Thank you for your documentation." I replied with one line. "Confirmed. No longer residing at Unit 2B as of yesterday." Maeve leaned over and set a granola bar by my elbow, without comment. I nodded. My phone vibrated itself toward the edge of the desk. I nudged it back and let it ring until it stopped. At 10:32, the group chat pinged one more time. Mom had posted the photo from earlier, our faces close, candles flickering, and wrote, "I love you both." Kayla added, "Yikes morning." "Coffee later, Sarah?" I typed, "Yes," and put the phone away. The studio key pressed into my thigh through my pocket, solid and small. My studio smelled like laundry and lemon cleaner. The door stuck unless I lifted as I turned the knob, and then it clicked, solid, like a safe. I set my backpack down, slid the red toolbox under the sink, perfect fit, and hung a cheap white curtain on a tension rod across the window. The fabric was thin, but it made the place feel less like a waiting room. Dinner was noodles in a mug on the floor, my back against the wall. The radiator gave a little clank that made me smile. I didn't turn on the TV on my phone. I didn't answer the calls that still came in waves for an hour after the inspection. I read the subject lines. "We need to talk." "Call me," and let them pass. In the morning, I woke up sore from the floor and weirdly happy. I lifted and turned the door like a pro, walked to work, and answered emails like nothing was different. Maeve leaned over our shared divider at 10 and raised her eyebrows. "You good?" "I am," I said, surprised it was true. At lunch, I swung by the studio with a bag of command hooks and a couple of plates from a thrift store. The guy from the laundromat propped the back door for me with a detergent bucket. How's she treating you? He asked, nodding at the ceiling. She sticks, I said, but she locks. Good, he said. He let the door ease shut. The group chat went quiet after the inspection. No memes, no lists, just a photo from Mom that night of her cat asleep in a sunbeam. Peaceful, she wrote. No one commented. On Friday, Mr. Bell forwarded me the formal notice he'd sent. Violation fee assessed and lease terms highlighted, his tone as even as it had been in the living room. I read it once and archived it. Saturday morning, I heard a thump in the hallway and peeked out. A woman from 2 doors down, buzz-cut, college hoodie, was hauling a small love seat toward the stairs. A piece of printer paper taped to the back said, "Free," in black marker. You taking it down? I asked. Leaving it by the curb, she said, breathing hard. It doesn't fit where I thought. You want it? Save me a trip. If you don't mind, I said. I texted Maeve. Strong arms. Free love seat on my floor. She sent back. Be there in 10. The 3 of us wedged it through my doorway, laughing when the door stuck, and then cheering when it swung. We set it under the window. It was a little saggy, upholstered in a faded navy fabric, and perfect. I ran my hand over the arm where the sun had bleached it lighter. You need anything else? Maeve asked, eyes scanning the room for disasters. A lamp? I said. Eventually. She nodded. I'll keep an eye on the bin at my building. Mom texted mid-afternoon. Can I pop by? I'll bring the plant you killed in high school but revived in my kitchen. It's forgiving. Please, I wrote. Text when you're here. Back door sticks. She showed up with the plant and a bag of groceries. Bread, soup, a little jar of olives I like. She stood in the doorway and looked around the room like she was letting herself exhale. It's cute, she said. It's yours? We sat on the free love seat and ate soup out of bowls, balanced on our knees. She cried a little and swiped at her face with her sleeve. I'm sorry, she said. I should have said something sooner. I didn't want to take sides. I know, I said. I meant it. I don't want to fight. I just can't pay a tax to open a fridge. She laughed through her nose. No, you cannot. We kept it gentle. She asked about the process at the laundromat downstairs and whether the radiator worked. I showed her the cheap curtain and the way you had to lift the door to lock it. She tried it, lifted, turned, and grinned. Look at you. Before she left, she squeezed my hands. I'm proud of you, honey. Boundaries, she said, like she was trying the word on. I'll keep the group chat boring for a while. Please do, I said. By Sunday, the chat thawed. Kayla sent a picture of her dog in a raincoat. An aunt posted a link to a casserole. No jokes about adulting or glitter taxes. Late that night, a message from Vivian popped up privately. This was a miscommunication. We should have discussed expectations differently. I won't be doing fees going forward. I stared at it for a long second, then typed, I'm glad we have clarity. I'm not moving back. I hope Pilates is good. I added a period and left it at that. On Monday evening, I met Maeve for coffee and a walk. We looped around the block twice. The air smelled like wet sidewalks and spring. If you ever need my couch, I said when we parted, it's yours. Free. But you have to respect the lint trap. She cackled. Deal, she said. I'll pay in olives. At home, I boiled more noodles and ate them leaning back against the love seat, the plant Mom brought tilting toward the light on the sill. I sent a quick text to the laundromat guy asking about mail and put in a forwarding order online. I hung 2 pictures with the command hooks and put my toothbrush in a cup by the tiny sink. Around 9, I stood by the door and practiced the motion again. Lift, turn, click. I slid the deadbolt. The sound was small and certain. I didn't time my shower. I let the fridge stay open while I decided between soup and olives, and closed it when I was ready. Then I lay down on the free love seat, listened to the radiator settle, and slept.